Oh, boom, there we go. Cue the music. What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all are having a good day. Hope y'all just had, I know y'all had a great session right before we came on. So I won't take up too much of your time, but I'm gonna just go ahead and introduce myself really quickly. While my co-host handles his technical difficulty. Up, boom, right on time. My brother Justin is here. So really quickly, guys, my name is James Peteet, creator of the Couple Up card game, a relationship building card game to see how well you know your friends, significant others, and loved ones. And I'm here with my partner Justin over here. We're basically going to teach you guys the ins and outs of the card game industry, and just give you the perspective of the whole card game industry from, of course, a black point of reference, a black point of view, because things are a little different on this side. And we just want to give you guys some insights, some tips to really help you mold. If you have some kind of idea what you want to make, you want to bring that creation to life. We're going to help you guys do that in this session. So I'll go ahead pass the Justin so we can introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm sorry about the shaky cam right now. I'm just gonna have to set up. I had to switch over to my phone because last minute, literally in the last 2 minutes, my computer just crashed. So thank you guys for bearing with me. But yeah, I'm the creator of 23 Spells King's Chess, which is essentially like an expansion pack on the traditional chess game using cards. So each player would have 23 cards, which is 23 spells. And using that, you kind of are able to update the chess playing experience to the modern age. You know, we've had a lot of evolution mentally, digitally, with so many options available to us that I wanted to kind of take the limits off of the chess game and give people a new way to tap into that creative element of themselves.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because that's how. Now let's look at like the really popular card games, right? The Unos of the world, or the Cards Against Humanity, things of that nature. They're one-off games, right? They're not really trying to solve a problem or anything. It's just like purely for entertainment, right? But where we come from, we like to provide the entertainment aspect as well as the educational aspect. So your game, you're taking the game of chess, which is to some people complicated, like myself personally, I'm a little slow, but you try to, you kind of twist it. Yeah. And you make it fun, right? You make it fun, you make it enjoyable, make it easy to understand. So you're really solving a problem for those that really didn't like chess. And then from my standpoint, my card game is educational in the sense that we're helping you learn more about your significant other, friend, family member, or whoever it is through thought-provoking questions that are also humorous in a sense, right? Because we try to phrase it in a way that's very lighthearted and things of that nature. So it's dope that both our games are still on that educational side as well as the entertainment side, which I think a lot of us, specifically as Black card creators, we can do so much because we are just so talented, so creative. We can just do a lot of great things because of just the knowledge that we have within ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, because I know we had that intro question about sharing our brilliance and what inspired that. And what you were saying kind of ties into my inspiration, which is I've always felt that we have like unique qualities in ourselves, and that relates to a lot of things. It's kind of corny, but I'll just say it. So we all have like our own star in the sky. And if you think about melanin, like we respond to the sun, which is a star. So, but on top of that, I feel like if you look in the sky, you're going to see a star that not everybody vibes with it the same way that you do. We all see the same thing, but we get different things out of it. And I feel like not everyone is able to tap into that unique side of themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to create a platform that encourages people to tap into something unique and different that you haven't seen before, and make you feel comfortable with that. And also for people who are really comfortable with that, give you a place where that can stay alive. Because in America, we have like a small creativity crisis, a critical thinking crisis, especially in our schools and our education system. So there aren't a lot of platforms for people to really keep that alive. It's one thing if you have it and then you turn around and you age out of it because you were just not able to grow that muscle. So that's what I hope to provide and share with people, not with only this project, but anything that I do.
And I like you brought up the stifling of the creativity. Like I said, that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. We bring in the education system and how they, don't want you to really be as creative. It's kind of like get in line and do what we say kind of situation. But with card games and board games alike, it gives you that opportunity to be as creative as humanly possible. Like when someone first asks why a card game, I say, well, in every household, I can probably point out 3 games that you have in your home. I'm sure you have Uno. I'm sure you got some playing cards. I'm sure you got Monopoly. So it's something that's in every single household. That's not necessarily a necessity, but it's something that's going to be around because it provides that entertainment aspect. And of course, some other games like you and I's that provides that educational aspect as well. So when someone says why, my quick answer, like, why not? Like, it's in every single home. Everyone's looking. When you come over to your friend house, you're like, yo, what games you got? Well, you talking about Xbox and something like that. But you're always gonna
Right.
go to the card game piece.
Yeah, that's the original. That's like back when we were kids, we didn't really have maybe an N64, but there's always cards around or something.
They don't know about the Nintendo. We might have some young viewers
Yeah,
who don't know about the Nintendo. But
speaking of that, there is the one side of being unique, but then there's when you're making a game, obviously you want people to play it, right?
Of course.
So there's a lot to be said about being unique, but we also have to have like a willingness to compromise so that people do enjoy the experience. Like, it's one thing to make a game and think it's great, but then if people aren't responding the way that you want them to, what would someone do? How, you have to keep that open-minded side as well. So I was just kind of curious what your process was in making Couple Up, if you had any strong feedback, if you had to do any adjustments or like kind of go back to square one.
Okay, so real quick, before I step right into the question, there are 5 steps that I had personally to creating a card game. We'll go through 5 a little more in depth as the panel goes on. But step 1 is, first of all, find your theme. Like, why are you creating your game? What's the problem that it solves? Things like that. Step 2, write everything out. Like, when I say the Couple Up card game went through so many different changes, aesthetically and just the technicals of the game. And I have a terrible memory. I got the memory of like an 80-year-old. So I have to write everything out so I can try to see.
I got folders and folders of papers. Yeah.
Yeah, folders. And as simple as my game is, I still had to write out a whole lot of things. The third step would be to create a prototype. And I want that to go over people's heads. I'm not saying you have to invest thousands upon thousands of dollars to get a prototype. And I'll explain, some of the cheaper, quick DIY ways you can get that going. And step 4, which is the playtesting part, which is what Justin was speaking on. And then play 5, how you actually print the games that should get it to the stores or to your customers. But to go straight to your question, the playtesting part. The playtesting part to me is probably the most important part of the 5 steps to create your card game, because that's where you get to identify who exactly is your. You can have a perceived target audience, like who you want to play your game, but the playtesting, you really see like who actually does like my game. And when it comes to the advice piece, I do it when my business coach is like eat the meat and discard the bones. So I'll listen to all advice, all opinions. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't go with the theme and the audience that I'm trying to bring in, then 9 times out of 10, I'll probably just, let it go. I'm still gonna listen, but it may not be something that I adjust. Like one of my first playtesting sessions, actually, it was very funny because my die is mostly, it just had colors in it at first, right? And so one family play tested and they said, well, he's colorblind. I was like, oh, wasn't even thinking that. So like just added it, like the logo that's on my card, just have the logo on the die instead of the colors. Now I say, okay, I still want the colors on there, but I'm gonna take that feedback and put the logo on there as well. So I made both things work. So I didn't take all the advice, but I definitely took the part that actually made sense. You want to alienate that population, So I think it all depends on, does it help you get closer towards your goal, like your target audience, as to whether or not you actually take that advice.
And there's an interesting point. It's not exactly related to what we're talking about, but what you just said kind of brought it to mind, because when I approached creating this game, I was always thinking about different elements that the players can interact with. And you just mentioned a few, right? You mentioned the dice and the colors.
Yeah.
And for me as well, I broke down my cards into colors to help people understand like the importance of which cards were supposed to be used in what scenario. So I think that for people who are interested in creating games, that's something to keep in mind. Like, you have to have different tools to be able to speak with the player, because you're not going to be there over their shoulder telling them everything. Like, they're just going to pick it up and go.
Yes. And that's brought that up. That's another part of the playtesting aspect. One of the do's and don'ts, I don't want you hovering over someone, telling them all the aspects of the game, or telling them like step by step. I want you to play the game and know instantly, like, what is the thing? What am I supposed to be getting from this game? Because to me, that tells me whether or not the game really, like, the message actually goes through. If you really understand, without me having to explain that the purpose of this is X, Y, and Z, you just play it and you feel it because of how the game is structured, the colors, the questions, or even like yours, how things are worded, the type of spell cards there are. Like, they're gonna understand. Okay, it's obviously a chess theme type of game, but what am I supposed to learn from it? So that's another part about the play testing stage that I would urge people to do, is to really hone your game to the point where you don't have to explain it, but they understand how the game works anyway and what the purpose of it is.
Right, intuitive, basically.
Precisely, exactly. And I don't know if I want to get to this right now, but I would love to hear from some of the attendees. I'm not sure they can like write in the chat or anything like that.
Yeah, we can.
They can write in the chat. Okay, cool. I would like to know how much do you all think it would cost to create a card game? Because when I tell a lot of my friends the cost that was associated with it, post prototype stage, they were amazed. Like they didn't think card games cost a lot. I'm like, they definitely can, depend on the type of cards, the artwork thing. It can be very costly, but I don't want that to discourage anyone at all. You know, I know a couple creators that first and foremost, they balled out too much on the prototype. And that's what I wanted to get into. My original prototype. So for anyone that doesn't know the Couple Up card game, which you can check out on my Instagram page at Couple Up Card Game, or you go to the website coupleupgame.com. It's two-sided. So one side is the question, the other side is the artwork. Really, really simple, right? Lost my train of thought just that quickly. What was I going? My head be moving like a million miles a minute.
Prototyping stage and how your prototype was going.
Yeah. Prototyping. So before actually printing the cards out, I actually just printed it out on white sheets of paper and I colored everything. I drew the logo. I colored it in exactly how I knew I wanted it to look. And I just printed out on Microsoft Word paper, cut it out, and I stapled the things together. That's super cost effective because I got it right for my job. I wasn't paying for it. But I know so many people that are spending hundreds and not thousands of dollars trying to create prototypes when it's literally just paper and words. Like it doesn't have to look like these with the games we talked about, just I guess the RPG games with the million different pieces and these booklets full of pages. Like it doesn't have to be that complicated. Uno is probably one of the most simple games that I've ever played personally, besides my game, of course. But it doesn't. You don't have to be a genius to understand how to play the game. But some of these other games are just so in depth and so many details. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be that way. You can really make it as clear cut and simple as you want, and not spend a lot of money doing it.
And even if you do have an in-depth game, you still don't have to necessarily spend a lot of money. You know, you can do it in a makeshift way. I mean, I have some of the original cards that from my prototype right here, and it's literally playing cards with words on top of them. And this is how we use just that and a chessboard, and it works, you know. And if you need extra pieces, I mean, you have quarters and pens and things like that, you know. Just it's like at this point, I feel like people take things very seriously because obviously gaming has moved into like a much higher bracket economically, but it is games, you know, like we have to have fun. And a big thing that I am focused on, especially with this game, is like removing the limits of the way we think about things. And because everything is really man-made in terms of like our logic or game logic, it's all just what you say goes, right? So you have to then challenge yourself to open your mind and be able to say, well, what if we were focusing on this, or what if we were focusing on that, to give people as well a new game experience. You don't want to feel like you're playing the same game over and over. And I personally am very picky with my games, and I do that a lot. So I was like, you know, I need to contribute something that's going to be different enough for people to feel a special connection with it that you don't get from another game.
Yeah, like I said, I'm glad you saw that difference. Like because you're so picky, you want something different. Let me create a game where it's going to be something different every single time you play it. Want to look at the chat really quickly. Dobie, I got a link, so I just dropped the link to mine. I think Justin, you have the pre-order link, or you definitely working on the pre-order link.
Yeah, so how that's gonna work for now, if you want the pre-order, you can send a DM to my Instagram. Just send a DM saying Afro to 23 spells. That's 23 SPELLS. And that will lock in your special discount for a $9.99 pre-order. It's just today only, because as time goes on, I'm sure my business coach will give me different advice on pricing, but I'm gonna give everyone a special today for the $9.99 pre-order, and that no matter when the link goes up, which will be soon, anybody who DMs me Afro will be able to get that.
You know what?
That'll be for the full game when it comes out for $9.99.
I'm gonna match you. I'm gonna throw a discount on it too. So after the panel, don't go to the site now, but I want y'all to wait. It's gonna be the same thing as Justin. It's gonna be Afro, or you're gonna get a discount on a couple of card game. But someone said I will say over 1K, but under 5K. Okay, so 5K was. So I'm gonna tell you my experience. So my very first big run, I ordered 300 games. And also this goes into the specs, which is another part of the creating your prototype. When you're creating, every aspect of your game matters in terms of the price. So the dies, the coins, the box, how many cards, what type of finishes on the cards, whether it's gloss or satin, all that kind of stuff adds into the price, right? So my game, I have a 300 card box. It has 100 cards in it, the die and a score pad, right? 300 of those coming from the supplier that I use cost me $5,300. Right. And so some of my friends said there is no way only 300 costs 53. I'm like, absolutely. Like because of all the specifics that goes into it, like making these boxes, these are all coming from China as well. And I'm working on finding US manufacturers that cost, more cost efficient. But it can get very pricey. But I don't want people to think they have to go, balls to the wall for like movies. These
Yeah,
are
I mean that's a pack of 300. You're saying so? No, you don't have to start at that level.
not
Hopefully, you can find a provider that might do 50, 100. There's
absolutely, and we can definitely I can definitely provide some of those that have no minimum requirement. So I know for the one that I'll just throw this out there, Board Game Maker. That's the company that I went through to get my 300. So what's dope about them is their cards are like excellent quality, and you can get as little as one, you can get as many as 10 to 50, whatever the number that you can think of, you can get that many. And of course, the price varies based on how many that you get. But I don't want people to think that they have to go super crazy and order hundreds at a time. Because when it comes to the proto testing stage, that's where I messed up. I ordered, I want to say about 50, I want to say about 75 actually. Yeah, 75 to 100 I ordered. Games just for prototyping. I mean, just for play testing. I'm like, I didn't have to order that many. I could have kept going with my regular, Microsoft Word cutout, but I got so involved in how it looks. Like when my game in stores right now, I got to get it printed. I got to go to the world with this. And it's like, it's not moving fast enough. Like, you got to relax. Keep doing what you were doing, save your capital. And then when it's time when couple up is like big, now you can go ahead and get that huge order and spending money more effectively. So you can get as little as you want. I would say start out with maybe 10, maybe 20, get you some focus groups. Um, find you an event space or something like that. Rent out a small event space, 10 to 20 people separated, by time period because of COVID and everything, and have them give you some honest feedback. Like get them some sheets of paper, write down what did you like, what did you not like, what do you think the point of the game was before I explained it to you, things of that nature. All that goes into the playtesting stage because that's again to me the most important stage. That's to realize whether your game works or whether it doesn't work. You gotta go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. So I want to give people a little perspective because I realize that this might not be clear, but there's a slight difference between myself and James and where we are in the progress or the process of our game. So 23 Spells is still in production and it hasn't been fully released yet, whereas James has completed the game. And I think you also have expansion packs as well to update the game, right? So when we're talking to you guys and telling you about this, we kind of have different focus as well, where I'm a little more on like the creative side of going from having like a small little inspiration in your mind to having something that you can take and play with your friends. And then James is able to tell you how you take that and then turn it into something that you can now go and take to market.
For sure. And the taking to the market piece, again, is not as complicated as we may think. It's just like any other business when you promote on social media. My business coach always says, who are you? What do you have? Why should I care? Right? That's basically those are my to go things, right? If I can't explain that, then the product isn't there yet. Um, you had to be consistent, like anything else, and keep speaking to your target audience. Me and Justin's target audiences are completely different. My target audience may have never played chess. They may hate chess. They may not like the type of even like the Yu-Gi-Oh style of card games. They may hate those kind of things, but they're like couples. They love to bond, ask each other's questions, those kind of things. Just like my audience may not be for his, and that's okay. But we have to dedicate our marketing strategies, the videos that we shoot, the pictures that we post to that audience. Because remember, your game is not gonna be for everybody. And I need people to understand that. Like I said, the games that we talked about earlier with the 70 pieces and the 3 booklets worth of instructions, those are not my kind of games. I don't want to sound lazy like
that's more my kind of game. Like I used to have
yeah.
a bunch of these games and I would just sit there and look at them like, wow, this is cool, but I would never even have anybody else that was into it. So
like Yu-Gi-Oh, I mean, was it complicated to me, but that's probably the most complicated game I've ever had to play. But it's really not. But you see what I'm saying? Like those are the kind of games I'm not really into at this point. I want something real simple. Let me ask you a question. get your feedback. If it's like a little prank card in there, then I'm cool with that.
Right. Lots of people enjoy games, but what kind of games they enjoy is could differ greatly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's one thing I was curious to ask you, but if you had a thought, you can go ahead.
No, I about to say, make the game that you want. Not and like I said, I see so many couple building games. It's insane. None of them are couple up. Let's get it. Don't get twisted. But I've
Right.
seen so many of them. But I also know a couple personally, and they're not even as invested in their game as they should. It's like they don't really care about the game, but they're in it because that's the wave. Like we've been quarantined for the past year now. Actually, I think we just
Yeah.
passed. We've been quarantined for over a year, right? So they jumped on that wave of everyone being locked with each other. Let me get a card game for relationship building, or whatever. But now I'm starting to see that Peteet is kind of tailing down since the world's opening back up now. And you can see they're not really posting as much. They were never that involved with the game to begin with. So don't just like try to create a game that you think make something that you like. If you don't like it, then you're not going to want to promote as heavy. Then you're not going to be as genuine when explaining the card game or board game to somebody. So first of all, make something that you love.
I agree with that. I had something written down where it's kind of like the three main elements I feel a person would need to create a game. And the first one is kind of what you're saying, where like a source of inspiration.
Yes.
And then on top of that, you also need to have like an end goal, because to me that's different. Because when I was making 23 spells, my end goal was, like I was saying, like I wanted to just create like a platform where people could almost like a programming language with computers. Like you can take the pieces and upgrade them and program them to your desires, because that's how I see the world. Like now everything is just so accessible. Yes. And I love for people to think that way, and you don't always encounter people with that mind frame, even though, because we're still in the progress of this evolution, like this is over the past 20 years, our minds and the availability that we have. So I'm hoping that that's my end goal. My end goal was to give that kind of sense. And then my inspiration was kind of like you were saying, we had all these old school card games that were around back in like the 90s, 2000s. And I had a bunch of cards, and that was my inspiration. But then among that, you also need to kind of put those two together and be able to extrapolate. And I don't know if I used that word correctly.
Look, it sounds good.
Me, what it means is that you take, like me, for example, right? There could have been like 20 different outcomes of me based on my genes. So if you were going to extrapolate me, you would see all of those different possibilities and all be present.
I get that.
So you have to take that and do that with the road, essentially, between your inspiration and your end goal, and just extrapolate all those different possibilities and write them down. And some of them, that's why what I was saying before about limitations, some of those things might sound crazy, because if you think about like alternate dimensions, right? Like it doesn't always work out the same. So you can get into like weird looking things, but just let it out there, look at it, and see how other people take it as well. Give people a chance to interact with it.
Absolutely. And again, I say take all feedback, either be discard the bones, because I don't want to harp too much on that, but I know that stifle a lot of people, because everyone's saying, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. So they'll just like scrap the whole game. And like, well, nah, what do you like? Like, again, you have to promote this game harder than anyone else. If you like it, go with it. I always say there's a market out there for anyone. I remember back in the day, like when my parents were younger, there was something called a pet rock. And when she told me about it, I was like, wait, this is a thing people are actually buying? Like people like this thing? To me, it's stupid. But there's always a market for it. Whoever created, they loved it. Oh, the Kendrick said something. I actually want to get to that. I'm curious. I heard both of you mention Yu-Gi-Oh, and I get why. But I'm curious if you two have watched the anime called.
I was just reading that. I haven't seen that, but it sounds like something I would love to watch, and I could probably even draw more inspiration. So like that, there might have to be like a version 2 after I watch that.
Oh, for sure. I might to catch that. Yeah, I'm definitely behind on just my anime in general. But I wanted to make a point. When someone said something about the pricing, I want to tell y'all this. At least what I noticed personally from my card. I don't know if this is like it for the card game industry as a whole, but way more money is made from the expansion packs. Like Justin mentioned, I have 2 expansion packs right now. Than from the actual game, as far as the profit margins are concerned, made on from that. So what I noticed, people, my card game is relationship building, right? But I purposely left out all the sex questions. And of course, when we relationships, everyone wants the juicy sex questions. I got those requests a million times a day. So I said, cool, I'm gonna create 36 cards, all sex questions, all 4 of my different categories. And when I tell you they flew, and when I saw the difference in the money I was, man, I ordered about 200 of those my first go round. The profit margin was so crazy, and I was just so surprised. I'm like, this is probably why all the major card games we have, they just keep making expansion packs instead of making a whole new game, they just add on to the previous one because the profit margin is so much different on that. So that's just something little, I guess, a tip for you guys. After the game is created, you got to start working on expansion packs that go with your game. Like it's a must.
No, that's perfect because that's something that I wanted to talk about a little more, the expansion packs. But also you mentioned like the deck sizes, right? Like how many cards are included. Is that something in your creative process that you kind of started with a number in mind, or did you just kind of let it evolve and then you cut it down? Because for me, I had no number in mind. I was just making cards, and then it just happened that it was an even number, and I was like, okay, beautiful. And then obviously I worked it around, and certain cards got kicked out, new cards got added in, but I slowly started to see 23. I was like, all right, let's get it right there. That's a good number.
Nah, honestly, I had 200 and I was tripping. So my game, I have 4 different categories of cards. You have what if cards, which is scenario based cards, complete me cards, which is like, can you complete my sentence? So say the first thing I do in the morning when I wake up is blank. Favorite cards, pretty self-explanatory. My favorite XYZ is this. And scenario cards, just like what if, but I give you the 4 different types of scenarios that your significant other has to pick from. So I wanted 50 of each question, and going through the process, I said I can't think of it because I took a lot of time to create the game because I wanted the questions to be meaningful, not just your regular what's your favorite color kind of things. I wanted something that you really had to know your partner in depth to know how to answer these questions for. You really had to study and observe them. So I didn't just want your everyday average. Well, I know you like this because I see you do it every day type of things. So after sitting down, I couldn't get 50 for all of them. So I said, what's something that's manageable? And then I still have enough brain power to create the expansion packs. So I already knew the expansion packs had to be made because that's where the profit margin is made.
Right.
So I said, you know what? We can settle for 25. 25 is a good number. And you're not going to get through the whole game in one sitting. Like, I don't think people are still telling me they still haven't gotten through all the cards yet. It's only 100, but again, like as you continue playing, you'll probably get the same cards over and over. But the different person may have to answer. So it's still you're still learning something. But the number definitely matters, obviously, in terms of price. Most of the card game vendors that I go through or that I look at, they go every 18 cards. So like a sheet can be 18 cards.
Okay.
So that's how most of them, at least the ones that I go, that's how they go through. So definitely be mindful of how many cards you want. And you don't have to have 100. You can have as little as I don't know how many Uno has or how many a traditional deck has, but it can be as little as you want.
Yeah, I know the traditional deck is like 52 or 54, something around there.
Yeah, because the Yu-Gi-Oh decks came with like 50. Yeah, absolutely right. 52, right. So
you see, the interesting thing that you were saying, which was the same for me as well, is that it was important for your ideas to flow, that you broke down everything into categories. You didn't just say, okay, I'm going to make a bunch of cards involving relationships and then just kind of go crazy. Yeah. But you get yourself different like vessels, I guess, to fill them in under and guide your thought process.
Yes, exactly. And
I had the same kind of thing as well, which was a little harder for me because it was an abstract. It's like, okay, I just want chess to be cooler, right? Like, so I had to really think hard about how can I do that? Like, what ways can I actually create an enhanced battle experience? So I spent a lot of time watching different animes, different like war movies, like, Game of Thrones, all those like kings and queens and swords, dragons and all of that. And then you see, like, just like you were saying with like themes and relationships, so you start to see different themes that take place in a battle, and it started to guide my mind. Okay, well, obviously we need some defensive cards. We need some real magic cards. I mean, when I think of magic, one thing I think of is teleportation, right? Like someone's just going to pop up behind you or pop up in front of you. So that was something I had to figure out a way to include all of those different dynamics within the constraints of just cards. But it was a fun process, and I think it worked out.
I love what we spoke prior to the panel. I remember you talking about your artwork being close to being done, and I was like super excited because I know it's gonna look amazing. And that's another thing I want to tell people, for those that are, well, if you go on coverlookgame.com or go to the Instagram page, you'll see the cards. It's not like the most amazing graphics in the world. It's not a Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon type graphic. It's really simple, straight to the point. It still looks good, but it's really, really simple, right? I want people to know that that also a factor into your cost. If you're not a graphic designer, like I know I'm not, Justin, I'm assuming you're not.
Nah, if I was a graphic designer, this thing would be done.
Right. So you have to go to outside people. Of course, you can do your Fivers or whatever other platforms there are, but definitely know that's going to go into your costs. Especially if you're someone like Justin, all his cards have different pictures on it, different graphics on it. So you have to pay for each one of those. That's a whole different design that that creator has to come up with. So again, that's just something else I want you to think about. If you want to go that route to make it, that aesthetically pleasing like that, and just know you got to factor that into the cost, because that can, I'm sure that can run you some money as well. Especially if you don't have an idea in your head of what you want it to look like. You're just like, I want it to look cool. Well, what does that mean? So like,
Well, I have a tip for people on that. You definitely want to create like an idea board or a vision board where you just scour the internet and take down as many pictures that vibe with what you're trying to do as possible and put it in a folder or a Google Drive or something like that. And so whenever you do get in touch with an artist, you're able to say, hey, like, I know you're not going to make this exactly, but this is where my mind was at. This is the things that I like. This is the energy I'm trying to portray.
yeah.
And that will make your experience so much easier, especially if you're not the artist directly and you don't have that skill to just go directly from mind to paper. Because working with third parties and working with other artists can be tricky if you have a difference of vision and they have a difference of execution, and then you don't want to get lost in that back and forth process. So it's better to just handle it up front and have that prepared. And also, and I know you're talking about the price of artists and things of that nature. A suggestion that I could give to people who might be at that stage is look through Instagram. If you use the hashtags, art commissions is a hashtag that a lot of artists use, that you can find people who are currently doing commissions. And I mean, that's just one picture. Commissions could be like 80 to $100 per. So if you have a big deck of cards, that might not really work for you, but it's still a good way to get in touch with artists. I did want to share with everybody the art that I have had developed so far. All the cards aren't done, but they should be done within the next month or so. Since my computer crashed, I can't show it to you right now, but they are up on the Instagram. So they're up right now. If you just check out 23 Spells, you'll be able to see a preview of how it's all going to look. And you can also find some dope artists if you need art as well, because they'll be tagged.
And I'm glad you just gave those gems, like where you get your stuff done. I would definitely advise people to first and foremost scour Facebook, all the Facebook groups. It's called like tabletop gaming, tabletop collaborative efforts. Like it's so many resources out here. Now, granted, the groups I'm talking about, they do those really in-depth games, like I said, the 70 pieces, like yeah, they do those kind of games, but they can still point you in the right direction, even if you are doing a more simple game. Even like a Cards Against Humanity, right? It's literally like what just a black card, white. Yeah, like nothing crazy about that, but they can point you to the direction to find like the best distributors, the artists to do. If you have no idea how to do graphic design work, like period. Um, those are definitely some things I would advise you to do. Another thing when it comes to marketing, which I didn't get till later, which is using other people's property. So I had a hard time finding, ironically, I had a hard time finding couples to play a couples game. And then I would give them a game like people, granted, it wasn't Corona. I understood it to a little bit, but I'm like, it's just three of us in the room. I just want to watch our play, something like that. But one restaurant owner, once we opened up a little bit, he actually let me use his space and said,
Nice.
"Look, I'll bring people." Like he brought them in for some kind of like game night, appetizers, all that good stuff. So your game will be the centerpiece. I was like, "That's dope." So I would definitely say partner with people that already have an audience. Just let your game be the icebreaker or like the main part of their day or something like that. That's another way to get people to see your game and to actually play test it without you having to, pay someone. Because like focus groups you have to pay for, at least the ones that I know, but you got to pay for those. But if you can go to your local a bookstore, a restaurant, just a club, anything like that, that wouldn't mind having you have your game as a centerpiece or just something that they can do throughout their day, that's definitely always a plus. It's free promotion. You get everybody's name, their email. Just make your email list. Another gem, which I wish I had done more of, was keep all the emails of the people that came to all my playtesting sessions. I just wasn't always prepared. Just wasn't always thinking about it. I was just so into what they thought about the game that I would just forget to get their contact information. I probably missed out on about 150 emails, like starting out just from play testing, referrals to friends. I just said, hey, let me get your email so I can let you know when the game is out. So always be aware of creating your market because Instagram, Facebook, Twitter can be gone tomorrow. How you still promote your game? How are you gonna promote your game if you have no one's point of contact? So always make sure you have someone's email, somewhere to contact, not the address, because we're not creeps out here. But definitely get the email address so you can always contact them at any point if something's going on with your game. You got your game is featured somewhere. If you got a new expansion pack coming out, so always be mindful of how you're going to promote your business in the email marketing aspect.
Definitely. And so I know we keep kind of drifting back to the play testing because that's a real important part in the creation element. So I know we've gone over like kind of keep the meat, discard the bones, but when do you consider like, oh, I have to draw the line and this is something I'm not even going to change?
Something I'm not going to change.
Because there's the moments like that as well, you know, where people will play the game. And I mean, when I kind of see it as similar between the rivalry between boxing and MMA, I've noticed that when people play, there's kind of a rivalry between people who are really like chess Puritans and don't want to change anything. And they'll try to play without using any of the spells and they'll try to just play chess. And like, maybe you should like change this or change that. And it's like, well, you didn't even fully play the game. So I can't take your advice the same way that I would be taking feedback from people who have like genuinely taken the time to dip into the experience and then see like, oh, like, because another thing is for me, I don't know if there's really winners or losers in couple up.
Yeah, it is. It is I mean, so it is. It's a point based game, but I always say the point of the game is to have the conversation that opens those doorways to have more conversation about important topics that we often shy away from. That's the end goal of the game. The competition part is just something I added because I'm a competitive person, and I didn't even get to the origin story, but I get to that after I answer your question. But I'm a kind of competitive guy, so I'm like, let me just throw it in just for my sake. I do want the overall conversation piece, but I know a lot of couples I notice when the point system comes into play, like, all right, baby, like, look, we gotta be on it.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta win. But it's so weird because then they start to think more about the question. So let's say it's a scenario card. Let's say X, Y, and Z is happening. What would I do? I see them, if they're losing, it's like, all right, well, I know last time something like this happened, she called her brother. Their brother did this, but she was thinking about to do this. So it's like now they're really thinking about their significant other and what they would do in that situation, all because of the points. So I'm like, the point system definitely encourages you to think a little more and really pay more attention to your significant other because you don't want to lose.
Right. And see, it seems like it may seem like we're not talking exactly about game creation right now, but these things that we're all talking about, like you're saying, the thought process of somebody as they're playing and when they see the points and how it inspires them to approach the game, those are all really important things to think about when you're creating the game, because that's the conversation. That's what I call a conversation that you're able to have with the players, again, without being there, just by them interacting with the game and what that evokes from their mind.
Yeah, like everything we're saying has to do with, even though we're not telling you exactly the websites to go. Even I did give a website, board game makers. But if you go back and listen to this, you'll see all these gems. Just again, like we said, write everything down. And as you go through your card game journey, you'll see, oh, I remember when him and Justin was talking about this. This one I need to start thinking about this. Oh, here's the email list he was talking about. Here's the playtesting part he was talking about. So all these do go into that. But to answer your question, again, I listen to everything, but some things I think when it comes to, again, if it's not what I like to see in my own product, then I'm not gonna like. It's something I'm not willing to change. Like
Right,
even
because you have the theme in mind.
is that I already have a theme in mind. So even with the logos, so it's 4 different logos because it's 4 different cards. I knew I wanted the logos to show every aspect of a relationship. So we got someone holding hands, to be a couple. We got people just, like the hand around the waist, like we could be friends. We maybe just, messing around. I got a logo with people actually kissing. So obviously something's going on there. And then the scenario card was like 4 people with their hands like jumping up like a group of friends. So I'm showing you is all kind of different aspects of all different kind of relationships, different relationship levels that can play this game. So if someone's to tell me, well, I don't like any of these relationship type logos. You have like a heart. It's like I could have a heart, But then that the average consumer may say, "Oh, well, I'm not in a relationship. I can't play this game." No, no, you definitely still can play. You can have someone that you just messing with, or a potential is like, you know what? I kind of like him. I kind of like her, but I don't know how well we will vibe. So let me get this card game to be the icebreaker to see how well we mesh together. So a lady actually did like they said suggested a heart. I'm like, that doesn't. It goes with the theme, but it's not. It doesn't touch the audience that I want. I want to get everyone under that whole relationship umbrella. And if I just put a heart, I know it can alienate some people.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but I still want to get as much people as I can, knowing the things that I want in my game.
I mean, there's some people that just hate hearts, you know, they're like more on the dark side of things and they don't want to see hearts on anything.
All right.
But also, something that I had wanted to touch on that you kind of brought up was like the winners and losers, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I wanted to make sure that the game was enjoyable no matter what, if you're the winner or the loser, because obviously in chess, you're going to have both. Someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. And it's important that the person who loses doesn't walk away feel like, oh, this is a cheap game.
Right.
Just some BS. Like you want to feel inspired or a sense of hope, like, oh no, like I can come back from this. I want to play again. I got to prove them that this was just a fluke. Like I know what I'm doing. I want to win. So that's important when you're balancing out everything and working on essentially balance or power scaling and creating different scenarios or storylines that are going to be present during the gameplay, because it's a journey from beginning to end and everything that happens in between.
Exactly. Like I said, depending on what if you want to add a winner and loser type situation, like I said, it's all up to you. I mean, I can't think of too many that don't have a winner or loser, but at the end of the day, at least the card games that I like, I want you to learn something from them. I said one of my favorite games of all time, not Uno, is Monopoly. I love the lessons that Monopoly taught. Even Derek Race board game, in-home banking board game. That's also one of my new favorite board games of all time, just because the education that I get from it. And specifically with Couple Up, like I said, you're going to get to learn different things about your significant other that you didn't know before, or even things that you thought you knew. Because as relationships, you know, they grow, you change as a person somewhat. Niggas done lost friendships, so that's a fact. I ain't lose no friends over Monopoly, but definitely got into some words over Monopoly.
Oh yeah, that was a big issue for me.
Yeah,
because I only had one beta tester, I guess you could say. And, it's hard when you're making up a game, right? Because if you win, then it's like, well, you just made up the rules. That's not really fair.
I mean, look, people gonna make up rules. People gonna make up rules to your game. They make them up to my game. Like, so how mine works is, how about let's say me and Justin are playing. I rolled the die and it comes with a green card. So I'm gonna pick up the green card and it says movie. So my favorite movie. Only I know my favorite movie, and Justin has to guess it. So let's say I write down Little Rascals, or Baby's Kids, which is two of my favorite movies. And Justin says something it's not the same movie, but it may be close to it. It's like, well, this was the spinoff of that movie, so technically it's right? Like, no, it's not right. You didn't get the answer. But people do that all the time. Like, they'll make up, well, it's kind of close to it, or these two words mean the same thing. Like, no, you got to get it exactly right. So people gonna make up their own rules, and I'm okay with that as long as the conversation still happens.
Yeah, I guess Uno is the best example of that. I feel like that's a whole meme world in itself, all the made up Uno rules, and they be trying to tell you what the real rules are, but at this point they've lost control of the whole thing, you know? It's like,
it's over. I'm putting control.
I'm running the table. I wouldn't really even be mad if people took that approach with this game, because that's exactly what I'm trying to encourage. I want people to make their own rules, and
depending on how you play, I don't want to look. I'm stacking draw fours for sure. I don't play numbers when it be like 8, 7, 6. I'm like, I don't do that. That's stupid. But I'm definitely stacking everything when it comes to Uno. Let's see if we got any questions you guys got.
Yeah, now would be a good time if you have any specific kind of questions you want to ask.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I went over my but yeah, you went over your inspiration piece. Mine really quickly. I'm a very non-confrontational kind of guy, and my girlfriend's the complete opposite. Like, she's with all the smoke. So she always wants to have like those tough conversations, and again, I just wasn't with it. So I say, if I want this to proceed, the relationship, which I do, I have to get used to having these conversations. So this is where you go to the creative card game that you like, something that creates that solves a problem. I said, well, I gotta find a way where I don't feel so weird or anxious or worrisome about having these conversations. So I say, well, let me make a card game. Let me make a game out of it. So I take everyday life situations, things we talked about in the past, to see like if she knew things about me, if I knew things about her, how we view the world differently. Excuse me. So that's kind of how I got over that, because we would laugh and joke about certain things, and it just evolved. Now we had those hard conversations. It's not hard anymore for real, but yeah, it's a lot
We
easier.
get a question in the chat. Someone wants to know, what is your top 2 favorite cards from your game?
Your top 2 favorite questions? Oh Lord. So first one, it's a what if card. It was perfect for the pandemic. If I lost my job, what is one of the expenses my fault. If I had to I'm getting the word messed up. If I had to cut back on expenses, I lost my job, I had to cut back on expenses. What's the one thing I refuse to give up? So that was perfect for the pandemic, because I was everyone, but a lot of people lost their jobs, and you had to figure out, all right, what am I not going to continue doing? Whether it's any kind of recreational, whether it's smoking, whether it's drinking, whether it's getting your nails done, your hair done, video games, whatever the case may be, what were you going to give up? And I was so sad by the responses. I don't even got time to run down the list. But to me, that shows, if I'm talking to a friend, family member, loved one, that shows where your priorities are. It's like we're in a pandemic, we lost our job, we got to cut back, and you still going out getting your nails done, or you still going out buying Jordans every week. It's like that's not the type of person that I want to be in a romantic relationship with. Friend, we can still be cool. I'm just saying you got horrible spending habits. But that's something I just like to think about. And my second one is probably it's a favorite card, favorite way to relieve stress. Because I notice a lot of people never have an answer. I've seen dudes, it's mostly guys. I'll see them answer the card, they'll be like, I don't know. Which I don't accept that answer. It's like, no, you have to write something. Because
Right.
now I'm requiring you to think. You have to think. You have to find some kind of way, specifically for that question. You need to have a way to relieve stress. Because now that's telling me you have a lot of pent up frustration. Because as adults, we're going to have frustrations about things. Like the world is a frustrating place. So I
Yeah,
know
no,
you
that's something you need to know. Yeah.
yes, you need to know that. And if I don't know that about myself, how can I assist my significant other in helping me grow as a person?
Or even relate to that.
Or
If
even
they're like, I'm dealing with stress right now. It's like,
exactly. So I need you to understand those kind of questions. So my game is very self-reflecting as well in that instance. So that's dope. Gonna cop mine today. Definitely appreciate it. Wait till after the live though, so I can put the discount code in. Wait till after, look, I gave you my word. Wait till after this, I put a discount code, then go ahead and grab. So wait about an hour after we finish, then go ahead and grab the game.
I kind of like that question, so I want to answer it too.
Okay.
Because I definitely have some favorite cards from my game as well. One of them is called Lucky Shoes, and Lucky Shoes basically, if your piece gets attacked, it will instead switch places with the attacking piece, so it will stay alive. So let's say like I take my bishop and I send it all the way across the board, and I try to take your king, just for example. But you have Lucky Shoes. Now your king is going to be where my bishop came from. You switch places, and then it's your turn, so you can now move and do whatever you want.
I'm pissed.
Yeah, yeah, situations like that arise a lot. That's just one example of what's the blue cards, and they're blue for the reason that a lot of times you might go to hit or swing or attack a piece, and instead just hit air. So that's why I picked those as blue. Let's see, another favorite card of mine is called Cursed Shoes. I'm going to keep it with the shoes theme today.
Right.
And the Cursed Shoes is you place that either on your queen or the other person's queen, and it limits their movement from being the best piece on the board that can move everywhere to being just a knight. And you could use that again, either strategically for yourself to turn your queen into a knight. Maybe you need that for some reason. You never know what situation you could be in. Or on the other hand, you can cripple the opponent's queen, and now they can only move. That card is permanent. Most cards are only one turn, but that's a permanent card. It's a curse, so it's just there. And I like that one a lot because it has options of how it can be used. And that's kind of going into what I was saying before about giving people ways to tap into that part of your mind and manage information overload, because that's a skill that we need. And this is a fun way to do it. Like at first, it may seem a little overwhelming. And I'll be honest, like I've noticed with playtesting, by the third game is when people have a grasp of what's going down. That first game is just a throwaway. Don't even really try to win. Just mess around. Yeah. And then you'll cycle through all the cards, kind of like how you were saying that people don't even get all the cards.
They don't.
You got it, because it's 23 spells, but each person has 23 spells. So it's
Mhm.
46 total.
Totally.
And then it's going to take you a while to get them all. And there's different combinations that you can have, that maybe you got the blues, the lucky shoes, you got the curse shoes,
Mm.
and you might put them on the same piece. Who knows, And
Very strategic. I
yeah,
definitely.
big strategy. I'm very into strategy.
You make me wish I knew how to play chess. And it's
You
look,
know,
I don't look.
you don't
Ashley,
need
she
to
had
know
a
how to
question
play
for you
chess,
too.
honestly.
Yeah, you don't have to know. That's what I'm saying. Like I
You can
personally,
do all the rules of chess for the most part. The only thing is the basic movements will stay the same. But
yeah,
all that like checkmate, castling, those things aren't even in the game
it doesn't
because
apply.
it doesn't apply. It's not even fully relevant anymore. Because like I was just saying about the lucky shoes card, how
Mhm.
could I possibly checkmate you? How could I just say, oh, my piece is here, your piece is there? That means the game is over.
Game up, yeah.
No, you have to prove it. I have to actually go take it and see if you have a way out or not.
It's gonna piss the traditional chess players off. They're not gonna. They're
It
not gonna.
does. It does. It does piss off a lot of traditional chess players. But what I say is kind of this: like, we're at a point where a lot of people want to change the world and they want to change a lot of things about the world. If you can't be comfortable with a small change in a game, I don't know what changes you're really going to be making in the world.
It's true. I like that. I like that. As she said, I had one for you, Justin. Do you have one artist or different artists for all the cards?
So I have one artist for all my cards, but a separate artist did like the cover.
Oh, say one more time. Is that?
That one artist is going to be handling all of the cards, and then I have a separate artist do the cover and like the promotional kind of graphics.
Okay, you got something different. Okay, got you. I know from I had one artist, he did the logos. He didn't do my boxes. My box is literally just the logo on the front and then the cards on the side. So luckily I didn't have to pay no, I did have to learn how to use Adobe Illustrator, which was a headache. But that's because I'm just like, I'm not technically sound when it comes to the graphic stuff. But I figured it out within like 2 weeks. But yeah, so luckily I didn't pay no one to do that. But the guy that did the logo for me the first time, he did show me a couple different game boxes from games I'd never heard of. He was like, "Your game sounds like it could look like one of these." So I just kind of took some pieces from those other games and just kind of made my own box. So that's how I made mine. This sounds amazing and frustrating at the same time.
Yeah.
No, definitely,
It is. It is. I feel like that's why I was saying you could either be on the winning end or the losing end. But no matter what, there's always a little sense of hope and a way for you to try and get out of it. Obviously, I didn't explain to you all of the cards, but there's lots of different ways for you to frustrate the opponent as well. It's not going to be one-sided.
Silent Blade said, "Where do I buy?" They just want to buy. Where can they pre-order your game
Hop
at?
into the Instagram, 23 spells, 23spells, and updates will be posted. Right now, it's still in the pre-order phase, but within the next few months, it's definitely going to be a 2021 launch. I'm hoping June should be good. June 23rd would be beautiful.
And also, she said, "Bet." Also, for the crowdfunding, because I told how much I paid for it. I actually did do an Indiegogo campaign for I think 6 months. Yeah, about 6 months, where I raised the capital to actually assist with paying for the games. And the dope thing about I don't know if anyone's ever used Indiegogo or not, but I didn't hear about it until I started the card game. The only difference between that one and Kickstarter is with Kickstarter, it's like an all or nothing. So if you want $5,000 and you at 4,999, you didn't hit your goal. All those people that pre-order are gonna get their money back, and you got to start over. With Indiegogo, you're gonna get 4,999 or whatever, however much you make, that's what you're gonna keep. So I personally, if you did want to go the crowdfunding route, if you don't have the capital to do it right now, but you can garner the interest, I personally would do Indiegogo. The only I wouldn't say an issue, but it's not as known as a Kickstarter. Like it's Kickstarter's like the huge space where everyone goes to try to fund something. But Indiegogo personally is my favorite because you get to keep whatever. Like I'd have been pissed if I wanted to raise a number and I literally fell a dollar short. And now I gotta try to get
I got to start back to square one.
I gotta start at square one. I mean, at least I do have the email list.
Way to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. So if anyone was struggling with the whole capital piece, because like I said, we told a little bit about how much the card game industry can cost. And also, again, it all depends on the extra accessories that you have in yours. I said mine, I just had a die, card sheet, cards, and then obstacles. But some things come with the sand clocks. I've seen the timers. I seen them come with 2 die. I seen them come with pencils. a watch. Look, I've seen all kind of things inside of card games and board games.
I feel like you must have picked up a really complicated game at one point in your life and it traumatized you, because you go back to that so much.
Bro,
every time we talk.
yes, I've been in Target so many times and I've seen card games where I've opened the box. First of all, it should be sealed, but that's another story. I opened up the box and I'm like, why are there so many pieces? I'm like, this to me is like system overload personally. And
Right.
again, I came from playing with Pokemon's, Yu-Gi-Oh's, Duel Masters, which isn't a whole lot of, it's literally just cards. I can do that. And Monopoly, still more pieces, but still pretty simple to me anyway. But that's just my personal thing. But just in game, I'm gonna get a little frustrated, so I'm gonna text him on the side, be like, hey, I ain't like this.
But no, we'll play the first one together. You know, I'll give you the special tutorial, make sure you got the strategies down pat.
For sure.
And maybe we can record it and share it with everyone else so they don't feel left out. I don't want you to have an unfair advantage, you know, people saying.
Absolutely.
But looking at the time, I don't know if you want to wrap up, if you have any last statements.
The last statement, since you brought like we can do it online, that's another way to play test. If you don't want to, if your person doesn't want to meet up physically, let's do a Zoom. You know, I can send you maybe like a PDF of the cards or whatever the case may be. There's always a way to make it work. You just gotta be creative and know like this is what I want to happen. Whatever I gotta do, let's get it done. But other than that, my other lasting words, of course, you can be Couple of Game at coupleofgame.com. Follow me at Couple of Card Game on Instagram. If anyone had any other questions, appreciate it. Any other questions, always hit me in the DM. I'm willing to answer any and all questions about the card game product, or just if you just want to say hello and tell how much you like the game. But I'm here to answer any questions. Any way I can assist you all with the creation of your card game, then I'm also here for it. And I have a book for sale, Tabletop Creations, the 5 steps to creating a profitable card game. Because at the end of the day, we do want to create fun. We want to make lasting memories. But we also want to get to where the money resides, like my brother said. So 5 ways to create a profitable card game. You can also grab that at couplegame.com. It's an ebook, so you don't got to hold nothing, no shipping, straight to your email. So yeah, that's all I got to say. And I definitely appreciate you guys for being with us, asking all your questions, being engaged. So appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a great experience. And don't forget to DM us with that discount code AFRO.
Yeah, so, AFRO, that's all we Afro.
Yep, AFRO.
Afro discount code. So remember, don't buy a Couple of Card Game, wait an hour just to give me time to do other things. I'm gonna put that discount code in there.
But I hope everybody has a great time at the rest of the convention.
Yes.
Stay tuned for more.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all.